YouTubers, Duster Dan signing on regarding growing avocado trees, seedlings from pits. As you can see here, I have several trees, seedlings growing now. This is how I start them out. Just stick some toothpicks into the pit and put them in water. And you just got to keep enough water in there to keep the pit partly submerged. And you can see how healthy these are. These are probably about ready to put in a pot like that one. But when you first put these in water, you have to determine by their response to putting them in water, you have to determine whether these are worthy of growing into a tree or not. Because some of them sprout out real fast and sprout roots and grow with enthusiasm, and some of them do not. So you really have to be selective. You really have to be selective about which ones you choose to grow into a tree and which ones you don't. These three, there's some more plants by my daughter. Those are not avocado seedlings, but these three are pretty enthusiastic. But you can even see between these three that they're growing at different rates. So I would probably pick this one since it's the most enthusiastic. But this one's this one's pretty delicate right now and needs to be protected if you choose to put it in a pot like that. For instance, even this tree got some sunburn on a couple of the leaves just from being in the sun 1 or 2 hours too long. And they're fine, or rather they do better staying hydrated as long as they're in the cups with the water. But when you transfer them from the cups to a pot, the root system has a much more difficult time keeping the plant hydrated because obviously the water is much more wet than the soil is, no matter how wet you keep your soil. So when you go to pot them from a seedling in a cup to a seedling in the soil, you have to be very mindful to protect them from direct sunlight for long periods of time. Otherwise they will burn, and they'll burn quickly. It only takes an hour or two of too much sunlight and all these leaves will wilt. So now I have this one, this little bit older one, in an area where it gets sunlight for about 3 to 4 hours a day, and it is mature enough to handle that much sunlight. But prior to just the last month, it was not. And some of those leaves, like I said, they sunburned and they were wilting just from about 60 minutes too long in the sun. So you got to be really mindful of that. Put them in shaded light when you put them into the pots. Don't put them in direct sunlight because they will not be able to get enough water up into the leaves and they will wilt and eventually burn, and it doesn't take long. But getting back to the seedlings in the cups, you can see how I do them. I would probably try growing any one of these three. They all look to be pretty enthusiastic. This one has a double top coming out because the single had issues early on and died. So in a response to that primary top coming out down in there, when it died, it was enthusiastic enough to sprout out 2 tops instead of just 1. So this is a pretty healthy plant. This one is as well. You can see it's got a little bit different color on the leaves, so it's got different DNA than this one. I would say this one is very similar to that one. And you want to choose plants that have really good branch and leaf growth. They grow faster and they tend to have the necessary hormones in the plant that enable it to blossom out later. I don't know about these two, whether they would blossom within a short enough period of time to make it worth your while growing them into trees. This one probably would, and this one I'm pretty sure will as well. But it remains to be seen with these two, even though they look like they're doing pretty good. One of the things you look for in seedlings when you first put them in water When those leaves come out, you look for that plush green color on all these, and you look for the red, healthy red color on the stalks. You can see all these are healthy and red, and even on the large one down there, it's dark red. So that tells you that it's really healthy. I've grown some other ones that really were not very impressive from seedlings, and I basically gave up on them because they did not have the enthusiasm, the energy. They just didn't want to grow. And so that's how you determine whether it'll be worth your time growing particular seedlings, but you can't know that before you get the seeds to sprout out. So that's something you have to decide after they sprout the leaves out. So I would suggest, if you're trying to grow avocado seedling trees from a pit, is to try to sprout multiple seeds. Don't just do one or two, but do multiples, like 4 or 5. I think I did between 10 and 15, and these were the best of what I managed to grow. I gave one of them away, and another one actually got sunburned and just crispied in the wind. So out of about 10 or 15 total, I got 5 good ones, and no, 6 good ones, gave one away, burned another one. I'll take you over there. This is the one I burned in the wind and in the sun. This one was in the sun a couple hours too long, and it got windy that day as well. And the soil is sopping wet, and yet it was not enough to keep it hydrated. It just burnt the ends of the leaves. And now this plant, which looked much better weeks ago, this plant has been in shock ever since the leaves burnt on it from the dry weather. So I'm gonna have to wait and see if this one comes back or not. If it doesn't jump up here in the next couple weeks and start sending out new leaves from the middle, I'll probably give up on it, because it wasn't real fast growing in the first place, and now it's not growing at all, even though it's still alive. So I need to be real selective, and I would suggest you be real selective of the plants that you try to grow from a pit. If they're not very enthusiastic, don't waste your time with them. You want a tree that's going to grow fast and bear fruit within a fairly short period of time, say 5 years at the most. Alright, so in regards to protecting these plants, they're super delicate when they're this young. You cannot put them in direct sunlight. You cannot leave them out in the wind. If you try to grow them in the house, they won't get enough sunlight. When they first sprout out, you can grow them in the house, okay, when they're an inch or two tall, with the sprout coming out of the pit. But after that time, you've got to get them used to the sunlight and get them growing at a little bit faster rate and get them bushing out. Otherwise, they'll be real, if they don't get enough light, they will get real tall and spindly, similar to that one, except with much lighter colored leaves. These leaves are really healthy, and so this one's actually doing pretty good, although if it gets much taller, I'm going to have to top it, because you can see it's pretty delicate. And whereas these are a lot more sturdy, this is what I like to see. This one's real sturdy, and this one's a little more delicate. This is the kind of thing you see when you try to grow an avocado tree in the house with not enough sunlight. So early on, after they get about half this tall, after you put them in the cups and they sprout out, you've got to get them right by a bright sunlight source, but not in direct sunlight. So one of the things you can do if you do put them outside is to put them down inside of a 5-gallon bucket, which is where I keep these for now, to protect them from too much sun and from too much wind, because where I live, I get a lot of wind often. So I'm going to put these back. I had them out just to do the video, And that's how I keep them for now until I get a chance to put them in a pot like that one. So be selective about which pits you choose. Put them in water with the toothpicks in the pit. Maybe I'll go into detail about that sometime in the future and show you up close how I do that and how I press the toothpicks into the pit. It's really difficult, but it can be done. But of course, like I said, you're going to have to sprout them out first before you know which ones are going to want to grow fast and which ones are going to grow really slow and not be worth your time. So that's how I find out. I put all my pits in the water basically, and whichever ones sprout out within the first month or so, those are the ones I try to grow into trees. If you're new to my videos, I just wanted to let you know this is the kind of tree. I mean, you can grow trees like this from a pit. This one was grown from a pit. It's 6 years old this spring. Some of my other videos have this one. It's just loaded with blossoms, and last year I got about 50 avocados off of it, almost as large as 1 pound a piece. Very large, very delicious Pinkerton type avocados that I grew from a pit. And so you can grow them too, but you've got to look for seedlings that are very enthusiastic. This tree, when I opened up the fruit to eat it, had a sprout coming out of it already and a root popping out of the bottom, and when I put it in water it just grew like gangbusters. So I planted it, and now I've got a beautiful 6-year-old tree, not quite 6, maybe 6 years old, that's producing delicious large fruit and just growing with lots of enthusiasm. Beautiful tree. And so you can do it too. Over there on the other side of my trailer I've got a Pinkerton nursery grown avocado. This is a grafted tree and it's going great as well. But the larger one was grown from a pit, and you can do it too if you're selective about which pits you use. So that's my video on avocado seedlings. If you found the video to be informative or helpful, remember to click like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. So hope you have a blessed day, and I'll see you on the next video. Duster Dan signing out.